I never thought a single purchase could turn my life upside down. I never thought a machine designed to remove problems would create the biggest problem I had ever faced. And I definitely never thought that simply refusing to work for free would turn me into the most hated man in my own neighborhood. But that's exactly what happened. My name is Zachary Morrison, and this is how a quiet suburban life in Bergen County, New Jersey, turned into a full-blown war with my homeowners association. A quiet life, a simple dream. 3 years ago, when I was 32 years old, I bought my home in a subdivision called Willow Creek Estates. Back then, it felt like the perfect place to settle down. Tree-lined streets, clean sidewalks, well-kept lawns, neighbors who waved politely but didn't pry into your life. The HOA fees were reasonable. The rules were standard. Nothing extreme. Nothing controlling. At least, that's what I thought. I wasn't rich. I wasn't struggling either. I was just a guy who worked hard for everything he had. I owned a small but growing landscaping business called Morrison's Outdoor Services. I started from nothing, just a used mower, a borrowed truck, and a lot of long days. Summers were brutal. Winters were unpredictable, but I loved the work. There was something satisfying about taking chaos, overgrown yards, broken landscapes, snow-buried driveways, and turning it into something clean and orderly. I wasn't chasing luxury. I just wanted a stable business, a comfortable home, and peace at the end of the day. Willow Creek Estates seemed like it could offer exactly that. The business that changed everything. Landscaping isn't seasonal if you're smart. During the warmer months, my company handled lawns, gardens, hardscaping, and property maintenance. But in New Jersey, winter is money if you're prepared. Snow removal contracts can make or break a small business. For years, I rented equipment or subcontracted plow jobs. It worked, but barely. I was losing profit and control. So last November, after carefully running the numbers, I made a decision that would change everything. I invested in a brand new pickup truck, fitted with commercial-grade snowplow. This wasn't some small attachment. This was a serious machine, the kind designed to clear massive snowfalls in a single pass. The total cost? $45,000. For a small business owner, that's not pocket change. That was a major loan, a big risk, and a massive commitment. But I had contracts lined up, residential clients, business parking lots, even a few municipal contracts in neighboring towns. During snowstorms, my schedule would be packed, sometimes 18-hour shifts, barely stopping to eat or sleep. But the payoff was real. This investment was going to take my business to the next level, or so I thought. The knock on my door. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning in early December. I remember it clearly. I had just finished my coffee and was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through the weather forecast on my phone. Snow was coming. 6 to 8 inches expected that evening. A solid storm. Good money. Then I heard a knock at my door. Not a casual knock. A firm, deliberate one. I opened the door and found Patricia Winters, the president of our HOA, standing on my porch. She was in her late 40s, wearing a puffy North Face jacket, holding a clipboard like it was a badge of authority. She had that haircut. You know the one, the kind that silently says, "I need to speak to your manager." Her smile was wide, but her eyes? Cold. "Zachary, good morning," she said sweetly. "I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." I glanced past her toward my driveway. My new truck sat there, the massive plow blade catching the morning sunlight. "No," I said, "just getting ready for work. What can I do for you?" Her eyes followed mine. "I see you have quite the setup there," she said. "Very impressive." "Thanks," I replied. "It's for my business." Her smile tightened. "Yes, about that." She clicked her pen and looked down at her clipboard. "The proposal. The HOA board met last night," Patricia said, "and we had an idea." That sentence alone made my stomach tighten. "With winter upon us," she continued, "we thought it would be wonderful if you could help the community." Help the community. Those words sound harmless. They rarely are. "We were hoping you could plow the common areas," she said, "and perhaps a few driveways for our elderly residents." I took a breath. "Patricia," I said carefully, "I appreciate the thought, But this is my business. I have contracts, paying clients. Her smile didn't fade. Oh, of course. But you live here too, Zachary. We all do our part to make Willow Creek a better place. She gestured toward my truck. And it would look so good to have one of our own residents with professional equipment taking care of things. There it was. Guilt, pressure, image. How many driveways? I asked, well, she said casually, for elderly residents. And the common areas, the clubhouse parking lot, and walking paths. She waved it off. Nothing too demanding for someone with your equipment. I did the math in my head. That was at least 3 hours of work per snowfall. 3 hours I couldn't spend on paying jobs. Okay, I said slowly. I can do it, but I need to charge the HOA my standard rate, around $400 per storm. The temperature on my porch dropped instantly. Charge, she repeated. Her smile disappeared. Zachary, she said sharply, this is community service. We don't charge our neighbors. I felt my jaw tighten. With respect, I said, organizing a summer social doesn't cost $45,000 in equipment, fuel, insurance, and labor. This is how I make my living. She straightened her posture. I see, she said coldly. Well, I'll take your response back to the board. Then she added the line that told me everything. I thought you were more of a team player. She turned and walked away without another word. The snowstorm. That night, the snow came exactly as predicted. I worked all night, plowing driveways, clearing parking lots, fulfilling contracts. I was exhausted, but satisfied. At 6 a.m., I finally pulled back into Willow Creek Estates. The roads had been plowed by the county. Individual driveways, homeowner responsibility. I cleared mine quickly and went inside to sleep. The morning, everything changed. I woke up at noon. My phone was vibrating nonstop. 17 missed calls, 12 text messages, most from Patricia, others from HOA board members. The messages started polite, then they turned demanding, then threatening. The final text read, Emergency HOA meeting tonight at 7 p.m. Your attendance is mandatory per Section 4.7 of the bylaws. This concerns your violation of community standards. Violation? I hadn't violated anything. That's when I realized this wasn't about snow. This was about control. And the real fight was just beginning. I showed up to the HOA meeting that night, already knowing something was wrong. HOA meetings at Willow Creek Estates were usually dead. 8 people if you were lucky. Mostly retirees arguing about lawn heights and parking rules. That night, the clubhouse was packed. Cars lined the street. Neighbors stood in clusters, whispering. Something big was about to happen, and I was clearly the center of it. The ambush meeting. Patricia Winters sat at the front table like a queen holding court. For other board members flanked her. Douglas Chun, the vice president, quiet, cautious, always avoiding conflict. Margaret Fletcher, the treasurer, nervous eyes, constantly checking numbers. Karen Hendricks, the secretary, Patricia's loyal attack dog. Tom Bartlett, a general board member, usually neutral, easily influenced. Patricia stood up and tapped the microphone. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, she said, her voice smooth and practiced. We have an urgent matter involving one of our residents and his refusal to contribute to community welfare. Every head turned toward me. I felt it instantly, that shift in the room. Suspicion, judgment, curiosity. Zachary Morrison, Patricia continued, owns professional snow removal equipment. Last night, while elderly residents struggled to clear their driveways, he chose to prioritize profit over neighbors. A murmur rippled through the crowd. That wasn't what happened, but she was selling it beautifully. Public villain number 1. I stood up. With respect, I said calmly, that's not accurate. I was asked to provide commercial snow removal services for free. I offered to do the work at my standard business rate. Karen leaned into her microphone. For $100 per snowfall, she said with disgust. That's price gouging, taking advantage of your own neighbors. I felt my blood pressure spike, but I kept my voice steady. That is my standard rate. I replied, it covers equipment, fuel, insurance, and labor. This is not a hobby. This is how I pay my mortgage. Douglas finally spoke. Zachary, nobody's questioning your business, he said cautiously. But optics matter. You driving past homes with that massive plow, while people are shoveling. It doesn't look good. I stared at him. So I should work for free, because it looks bad? Patricia didn't hesitate. Yes, she said firmly. That's what good neighbors do. The illegal vote. Then she dropped the bomb. The board has a motion on the floor, Patricia announced, to require any resident operating a snow removal business to plow HOA common areas and designated driveways during snow events. I froze. You can't just do that, I said. You can't force unpaid labor. Karen smiled, actually smiled. Section 3.2 of the bylaws, she said smugly. The board can create new policies by majority vote when necessary to maintain community standards. Before I could respond, for hands went up. Douglas hesitated. Tom hesitated. Then they raised their hands too. Motion passes, Patricia said. She looked directly at me. You are now required to plow the designated areas. Failure to comply will result in fines of $250 per day. The room was silent. I looked around, hoping, just hoping, someone would object. Most people wouldn't meet my eyes. That's when I understood something important. Fear keeps communities quiet. The lawyers smile. The next morning, I called Stephen Ramirez, an attorney specializing in HOA disputes. After listening quietly, he laughed, not mockingly, amused. They can't do that, he said. Compelled unpaid labor violates contract law, possibly constitutional law. Relief washed over me. But, he added, here's the problem. HOAs have money, time, patience. Fighting them is expensive. So what do I do? There was a pause. Technically, Stephen said, they didn't specify how you must plow. I leaned forward. What do you mean? You meet the letter of the rule, he continued. You plow, professionally, safely, but snow has to go somewhere. A slow smile spread across my face. Inconvenient, Stephen said, is not illegal. The first act of malicious compliance. Friday night brought a monster storm, 12 to 15 inches of heavy, wet snow. I handled my paying clients first. Then at 2 a.m., I returned to Willow Creek Estates. I cleared the elderly residents' driveways perfectly. One woman, Mrs. Chun, 82 years old, stood in her doorway in a bathrobe. You're a good boy, she said warmly. Thank you. I swallowed hard. This was never about them. The mailboxes disappear. Then I reached the clubhouse. I cleared the parking lot completely. Spotless. But instead of pushing snow to the back fence, I pushed it forward. Every pass. Every inch. Right in front of the community mailboxes. The pile grew. 3 feet. 4. 5. 6. By sunrise, the mailboxes were gone. Not damaged. Not touched. Just buried. I documented everything with photos. Then I went home and slept like a baby. The meltdown. My phone exploded at 9:30 a.m. Patricia was screaming. You buried the mailboxes. I plowed the areas you required. I said calmly, the snow had to go somewhere. Come fix this now. That would be additional service. I replied, I can relocate the snow for $300. She fined me instead. My lawyer laughed so hard he had to put me on hold. The community turns. Without mailbox access, residents had to drive to the post office. Lines wrapped around the building. Packages missed. Bills delayed. Holiday cards lost. Patricia tried to organize volunteers. Shovels versus 6 feet of packed snow. It didn't work. Fines against me climbed to $1,000. Then $2,500. The HOA placed a lien on my home. That's when neighbors started asking questions. The breaking point. A man named Marcus Thompson stopped me at the grocery store. Not everyone thinks you're the bad guy, he said quietly. If they can force you to work for free, they can do it to anyone. That was the crack. The first one. And it wouldn't be the last. By the time the next snowstorm hit, the situation had completely spiraled out of control. What started as a simple refusal to work for free had now become a full-blown community crisis. and the HOA had no one to blame but themselves. When the authorities got involved, after the mailboxes were buried again during the next storm, the post office finally stepped in. The postmaster himself showed up at an HOA meeting. His message was blunt. If mailbox access is not restored within 48 hours, he said, mail delivery to this entire subdivision will be suspended. Patricia tried to point the finger at me. He's doing this on purpose, she insisted. He's vandalizing federal property. The postmaster wasn't buying it. Snow piles blocking mailboxes happen every winter, he said calmly. It's the property owner's responsibility to keep them accessible. Since these are common area mailboxes, that responsibility falls on the HOA. That single sentence hit the room like a bomb. For the first time, people weren't whispering. They were openly questioning the board. The police visit. Desperate, Patricia filed a police report. An officer named Raymond Davies came to my house. He listened. He looked at the photos. He nodded slowly. This is a civil matter, he said. You didn't damage anything. You didn't break the law. Before leaving, he added quietly, for what it's worth, forcing someone to work for free doesn't sit right with me either. That was the moment I knew the HOA had lost control of the narrative. The lawsuit that backfired. The HOA escalated again. They sued me for $10,000, claiming I violated community standards. My lawyer didn't flinch. He countersued for harassment, abuse of authority, illegal fines, compelled unpaid labor. Then came discovery. Emails, text messages, internal discussions. And that's where everything fell apart for them. Patricia and her inner circle weren't just overreaching. They were plotting. Emails showed them calling me names, joking about forcing me out, and openly discussing how to make my life miserable. Even worse, financial records showed HOA funds being used for personal dinners, shopping trips, weekend getaways. Over $12,000 stolen. The community finally wakes up. A recall petition began circulating. Residents who had stayed silent before were suddenly furious. If they can do this to him, people said, they can do it to any of us. The recall election was held in March. The clubhouse was packed. The vote wasn't even close. Patricia and her allies were removed from the board. New leadership took over immediately. Their first actions? Repeal the forced labor rule. Cancel all fines against me. Pay my legal fees. Order a full financial audit. Justice at last. Weeks later, police arrested Patricia Winters for fraud and theft. Her right-hand enforcer accepted a plea deal. The lawsuit against me? Dismissed with prejudice. The judge didn't mince words. This HOA acted as if it were above the law, he said. No one can be compelled to provide unpaid labor simply because they live somewhere. The HOA was ordered to pay $18,000 in my legal fees. Case closed. Life after the storm. Spring arrived. The snow melted. The mailboxes stood perfectly intact, just as they always had been. Neighbors apologized. Some admitted they were afraid to speak up. Others thanked me for standing my ground. My business didn't suffer. It thrived. New clients sought me out because of the story. The same HOA that tried to force me into free labor, they hired me at my full professional rate, with a written contract, with respect. Final words. I never wanted to be a symbol. I just wanted to run my business and live in peace. But sometimes, standing up for yourself does more than protect you. It exposes abuse, breaks fear, and reminds people that power has limits. They wanted free labor. What they got was accountability. And every time it snows now, I still plow, but only on my terms.